I flew back to New Jersey because my mom called crying. 3 years. That's how long it had been since we'd spoken. 3 years since she told me I was too much work and hung up on me. 3 years since my brother Ryan said I was being dramatic about needing help with rent. And now she wanted me home for dinner. "We're family," she said on the phone, voice shaking just right. "It's time to move on, sweetie. I miss you." I should have laughed. Should have blocked the number and gone back to my quiet life in Massachusetts. But here's the thing about being rejected by your own mother, you never stop hoping she'll finally see you as something other than a burden. So I booked the flight. The house looked exactly the same. Pale blue paint peeling near the gutters. The welcome sign by the door that said "Bless this home," still chipped in the corner where I'd accidentally hit it with my bike when I was 12. She never fixed it. Never fixed much of anything. I stood on the porch for a full minute before knocking. My mom answered wearing her church smile. You know the type, tight at the corners, doesn't touch the eyes. She hugged me like I was covered in something sticky. "You made it," she said. "Not I'm glad you're here. Just you made it." I walked in and immediately knew. Aunt Linda was sitting on the couch. My two cousins were in the kitchen pouring wine. Ryan leaned against the dining room wall with his arms crossed, looking at me the way you'd look at a stain on your shirt. This wasn't a reconciliation dinner. This was an audience. "Everyone's here," my mom said, guiding me toward the table. "Isn't that nice? Just like old times." Old times. Right. When they'd forget to save me a plate. When Ryan got the bigger bedroom because boys need space. When I paid for my own prom dress with money from my grocery store job while they bought him a car. I sat down at the end of the table. Nobody asked about my flight. Nobody asked how I'd been. My mom just started bringing out food, talking too loud about Ryan's new job, about Linda's trip to Florida, about anything except the fact that I existed. I smiled and nodded. Because something was already clicking into place in my head. And I wanted to see exactly how far they'd go. Dinner started with small cuts. "So you're still in Massachusetts?" Aunt Linda asked, picking at her salad. She said Massachusetts like it was a disease. "Yeah. Connecticut actually. I moved last year for work." "Oh." She nodded slowly. "And you're still renting?" The table got quiet for half a second. Just long enough for everyone to register the question. Just long enough for it to land exactly how she meant it. "I am," I said. My mom jumped in, voice dripping with concern. "We worry about you, honey. Renting at your age, it's just not building anything, you know?" Ryan snorted into his wine glass. "What's funny?" I asked. He shrugged. "Nothing. Just, some people get it together faster than others." My cousin Trent leaned forward. "Ryan just bought an SUV. Brand new. Leather seats, heated steering wheel, the whole thing." "Congratulations," I said. Ryan grinned. "Thanks. Saved up for 2 years. It's all about discipline." I bit the inside of my cheek. Ryan lived at home until he was 27. Paid zero rent. I'd seen Mom pack his lunches for work when he was 30. But I didn't say that. "Must be nice," I said instead. "It is." He took a long sip of wine. "You should try it sometime. You know, actually planning ahead instead of just floating." Floating. That's what he called working 60-hour weeks at an insurance firm while living in a 400-square-foot apartment and eating rice for dinner 4 nights a week. My mom reached over and squeezed Ryan's hand. "We're just so proud of him. He's really made something of himself." The implication hung in the air like smoke. "Unlike you." I looked around the table. Aunt Linda wouldn't meet my eyes. Trent was smirking. My other cousin Kara was scrolling on her phone, barely listening. Ryan looked smug. My mom looked satisfied. This was planned. Every word. Every dig. They'd coordinated this. And then my mother stood up. She tapped her wine glass with her fork, and the whole table went silent. "I just want to say something," she announced, looking around at everyone except me. "I'm grateful. So grateful for this family. For a stable home. For successful children who make us proud." She paused. Looked right at me. "And I'm grateful for the lessons we learn from failure." The word hit like a slap. Nobody said anything. Nobody told her to stop. Nobody looked uncomfortable except me. Ryan was nodding. Aunt Linda had this tight little smile. Trent raised his glass like she'd just made a toast at a wedding. My mom sat back down, folded her hands, and looked at me like she was waiting for me to cry. I didn't. I smiled. Not a real smile, the kind you give when you've just realized you'd been playing a game you didn't know had rules. The kind you give when you finally understand exactly who these people are. "That was beautiful, Mom," I said quietly. She blinked, surprised. Maybe she expected me to yell. To defend myself. To beg for approval like I used to. Instead, I stood up, grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair, and said, "I have an early flight tomorrow. Thanks for dinner." Nobody stopped me. I walked out the front door, down the creaky porch steps, and got in my rental car. My hands were shaking. But not from sadness. From clarity. Because they had no idea what I'd been doing for the last 3 years. They had no idea what I'd found. They had no idea that the home they just used to humiliate me, the one my mom just called stable, was standing on a foundation that was about to crack wide open. I drove back to my hotel. And I didn't feel guilty about what was coming. Not even a little bit. Let me take you back. 3 years before that dinner, my mom called me at 2 in the morning. Not to check on me. Not to apologize for the fight we'd had. She called because she needed $500 to cover part of the mortgage. "Just this once," she said. "We're a little short. Ryan's between jobs." Ryan was 31. I sent the money. I was 28, working 2 jobs, and sleeping on an air mattress in a studio apartment. But I sent it. 2 months later, she called again. Another shortfall. Another emergency. Another promise that this was the last time. It wasn't. By month 6, I'd sent over $4,000. I was eating peanut butter sandwiches and walking to work to save on gas. My credit card was maxed out. I was drowning. When I finally told her I couldn't help anymore, she said, "Fine. I guess we know where we stand." And then she stopped calling altogether. Ryan blocked me on everything. Aunt Linda told me I was selfish. My mom sent one final text, "You've always been difficult. I'm done trying." That was it. 3 decades of being the backup plan, the fallback, the mistake, gone in one conversation because I couldn't keep funding their lives. I moved to Connecticut 2 months later. Took a job with a regional insurance compliance firm. The pay was decent. The work was boring. Most people wouldn't look twice at it. But I'm good at details. Good at finding things people don't want found. 6 months into the job, I was running a routine audit on properties flagged for permit violations in New Jersey. Just standard stuff, outdated wiring, unpermitted additions, foundation issues that homeowners had ignored for too long. I was halfway through the list when I saw it. 314 Maple Street. Ridgewood, New Jersey. My childhood home. My hands froze on the keyboard. I clicked into the file. Permit violations dating back 11 years. Electrical work done without inspection. A basement renovation that was never properly documented. And a foundation issue, cracks in the support beams that had been getting worse for over a decade. The house was a liability. If the mortgage company knew the extent of the damage, they'd demand immediate repairs or foreclose. But that wasn't the worst part. I scrolled down to the ownership documents. The house had been refinanced 4 years ago. My mom had taken out a second mortgage to cover some kind of debt consolidation. I didn't know the details. I'd been out of the loop by then. But there, listed as a co-signer on the loan, was my name. I stared at the screen. I had never signed anything. I pulled up the scanned signature page. That wasn't my handwriting. I sat in my cubicle staring at that signature for 20 minutes. It was close. I'll give her that. She'd practiced. But the loop on the E was wrong. The tail on the Y was too short. And I never dotted my I with a circle. That was something I used to do in middle school. She'd copied an old signature. Probably from a birthday card or a school form. My mother had forged my name on a loan document. I checked the date. 4 years ago. I would have been 24. I was working at a grocery store and taking night classes. I was barely making rent. And she'd tied my credit, my name, my entire financial future to a house I didn't live in. A house I'd never agreed to be responsible for. I pulled the full loan file. $60,000. Refinanced at a terrible interest rate. The payments were almost double what the original mortgage had been. I searched my own credit report. There it was. Listed as a co-signer. Impacting my credit score. Sitting there like a bomb that could go off any time they missed a payment. How many times had I been denied for loans? How many apartments had I been rejected from? How many times had I wondered why my credit was worse than it should have been? This was why. I could have reported it right then. Could have gone to the police, filed for fraud, started the process of clearing my name. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the years of being told I was dramatic. Maybe it was the exhaustion of always being the one who had to prove I wasn't the problem. Or maybe I just wanted to see how far they'd go before it all fell apart on its own. I saved the file to a personal drive. Documented everything. Took screenshots. Printed hard copies. Then I kept working. I didn't call my mom. Didn't send an angry text. Didn't do anything except wait. Because here's what I knew that she didn't: insurance companies don't ignore liability forever. Properties with major violations get flagged. Inspections get triggered. Mortgage lenders get nervous. And when they do, they move fast. I marked the file as needing follow-up review in 6 months. Routed it through the proper channels. Made sure it would come back across the right desks at the right time. Then I went home and made a spreadsheet. Every dollar I'd sent them. Every wire transfer. Every Venmo payment. Every time I'd covered their bills while I ate ramen and wore the same 3 shirts to work. $14,000 over 18 months. Plus the $60,000 loan in my name. $74,000. That's what my family owed me. And they didn't even know I knew. I closed my laptop and looked out the window of my apartment. For the first time in years, I felt calm. Not angry. Not sad. Just clear. They'd made their choice. Now I was making mine. After I left that dinner, I didn't hear from anyone for 3 days. No apology text. No "are you okay" call. Nothing. I went back to my apartment in Massachusetts and waited. Went to work. Filed reports. Ate leftovers. Watched the same show on Netflix I'd been watching for weeks without really paying attention. Normal life. Except I kept checking my phone. Not because I wanted them to reach out. But because I needed to know they wouldn't. Day 4, my mom sent a text, "You left so abruptly." Everyone was worried. I didn't respond. Day 5, Ryan sent a message, "Real mature storming out like that." I deleted it. Day 6, nothing. And that told me everything. They weren't sorry. They weren't worried. They just wanted me to feel bad for not playing along. I pulled out my laptop and opened the file I'd been keeping. The property report. The loan documents. The inspection schedule I'd quietly arranged through work channels 6 months ago. It was all in motion now. Had been for weeks. The county inspector was scheduled to visit the house in 2 days as part of a routine neighborhood safety audit. The kind of thing that sounds random but isn't. The kind of thing that gets triggered when someone files the right paperwork in the right order. I'd done that. 3 months ago. Sitting in my cubicle on a Tuesday afternoon, I'd submitted the request. Professional. Clean. No connection to me personally. Just a compliance worker doing her job, flagging a property that met the criteria for mandatory review. Foundation damage. Unpermitted electrical work. Structural concerns. All true. All documented. I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to call it off. To pick up the phone and warn her. To give her a chance to fix it before everything collapsed. That part of me sounded a lot like the kid who used to apologize for things that weren't her fault. The one who sent money she didn't have because family was supposed to matter. But that kid didn't live here anymore. I closed the laptop. Poured a glass of water. Sat on my couch in the dark. The inspection was in 2 days. After that, the insurance company would be notified. The mortgage lender would get the report. And the house they'd used to humiliate me, the one my mother called stable while listing me as a failure, would be exposed for exactly what it was. Rotting from the inside out. Just like the family who lived there. The call came on a Thursday morning. I was at my desk, 3 files deep into a routine audit, when my personal phone buzzed. Unknown number. New Jersey area code. I let it ring. 2 minutes later, another call. Same area code. Then a text from Ryan, "What did you do?" Not a question. An accusation. I didn't respond. Just opened my work email and refreshed the page. There it was. Inspection report filed. County notice issued. Property flagged for immediate safety review. I clicked through the details. The inspector had found everything. The foundation cracks were worse than the original report suggested, actual structural failure in the southeast corner. The electrical panel was a fire hazard. The basement renovation had been done without proper support beams. The house wasn't just violating codes. It was dangerous. The county had given them 48 hours to vacate while engineers assessed whether it was even salvageable. 48 hours. My phone rang again. My mom this time. I stared at her name on the screen. Watched it ring and ring until it went to voicemail. She called back immediately. I turned the phone face down and went back to work. By lunch, my voicemail was full. My mom. Ryan. Aunt Linda. Even Trent, who I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. All of them saying the same thing, "Call me back. This is serious. We need to talk." I didn't listen to a single message all the way through. Instead, I drove to Ridgewood after work. I parked 3 blocks away and walked to Maple Street just as the sun was setting. There were 2 trucks in the driveway. A county vehicle at the curb. And my family, standing in the yard surrounded by boxes and suitcases like refugees. My mom was on her phone, pacing back and forth, her voice getting louder with every pass. I couldn't hear the words, but I knew the tone. Angry. Desperate. The same voice she used when things didn't go her way. Ryan was loading boxes into his SUV, the one with the leather seats and heated steering wheel. His face was red. At one point, he threw a box down so hard it split open, and clothes spilled across the driveway. He kicked them. Just stood there and kicked his own belongings across the pavement like a child. Aunt Linda was talking to one of the county workers, gesturing wildly, probably trying to negotiate or charm her way into an extension. It wasn't working. The worker just shook his head and pointed at his clipboard. Neighbors were watching from porches and driveways. Some pretending to check their mail. Others just staring openly. The Carters were always so put together. Always hosting barbecues and Christmas parties. Always smiling for the street. Not anymore. Now they looked exactly like what they were, people who'd been living in a house held together by lies and expired credit. I watched for 10 minutes. Then I turned around and walked back to my car. I didn't feel victorious. Didn't feel vindicated. I just felt quiet. By Friday, the house was empty. I saw the photos on the neighborhood Facebook group. Furniture on the curb. Windows dark. A notice taped to the front door. By Sunday, it was off the market entirely. The mortgage company had frozen the property pending a full structural assessment. My mom couldn't sell it. Couldn't rent it. Couldn't even go back inside without county approval. And because of the loan terms, the ones she'd signed with my forged name attached, she was still responsible for payments on a house she couldn't live in. The same house she'd called a blessing 1 week ago. The same house she'd used as proof that she was better than me. Gone. Not because I destroyed it. But because I stopped holding it up. She showed up at my apartment on a Tuesday. I was making coffee when I heard the knock. Soft at first. Then harder. I looked through the peephole and there she was. My mom. Standing in the hallway in a wrinkled jacket and jeans I'd never seen her wear before. Her hair wasn't done. No makeup. She looked like she'd aged 5 years in 5 days. I almost didn't open the door. But I did. How did you get my address? I asked. Ryan found it online. She stepped forward like I was going to invite her in. I didn't move. What do you want? Her face crumpled. What do I want? We lost everything. The house is gone. We're staying in a motel. Ryan's couch surfing. And you're asking me what I want? Yeah, I said. I am. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You did this, she whispered. I don't know how, but you did this. I leaned against the doorframe. Did what? The inspection. The report. The timing. Her voice cracked. It's too convenient. Right after you visited. Right after. Right after you humiliated me in front of the entire family? She flinched. I came to that dinner because you said you missed me, I continued. You said it was time to move on. You said we were family. We are family. You gave a speech about learning from failure while staring directly at me. Silence. Ryan mocked me. Linda mocked me. You all sat there like it was entertainment. I kept my voice level. Calm. So yeah, Mom. I left. And if something happened to your house after that, maybe you should look into why it happened. We can't afford repairs, she said, tears streaming now. The foundation alone is $60,000. The mortgage company won't wait. We're going to lose it. We're going to lose everything. You already lost it. Please. She grabbed my hand. I know we haven't been close. I know I've made mistakes. But you're my daughter. You have to help. There it was. The thing she always did. The reason she called. She needed something. Come inside, I said. Hope flashed across her face. I led her to my kitchen table. Opened my laptop. Pulled up a file. I want to show you something, I said. She sat down, wiping her eyes, probably thinking I was about to offer money or a place to stay. I turned the screen toward her. This is a loan document from 4 years ago, I said. $60,000. Refinanced at 9% interest. Do you remember signing this? She squinted at the screen. I think so. That was when we consolidated some debt. Look at the cosigner line. She leaned closer. Then went pale. That's your name, she whispered. It is. But you were living in, you didn't sign. No, I said quietly. I didn't. My mom stared at the screen like it might change if she looked long enough. I don't understand, she said finally. That's my signature, I said. Except I didn't sign it. Which means someone forged it. Which means someone committed fraud. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. I would never. Stop. I held up my hand. I've had 3 years to think about this. 3 years to decide what to do. So just stop. I pulled up another file. A spreadsheet this time. This is every payment I sent you. Every wire transfer. Every time you called me at midnight because you were short on the mortgage or the electric bill or whatever emergency Ryan created that week. I scrolled down. The numbers filled the screen. $14,300 over 18 months. While I was working 2 jobs and sleeping on an air mattress. While I was eating peanut butter sandwiches and walking to work to save $3 on gas. She wouldn't look at the screen. Just stared at her hands. And this, I said, pulling up another document. This is a credit card opened in my name 2 years ago. I found it last month when I ran a full credit check. $8,000 charged. Currently in collections. Her head snapped up. I didn't. There's also a medical bill from a hospital in Ridgewood. $2,200. From when Ryan broke his hand punching a wall and didn't have insurance. Guess whose name is on the billing? He needed help. I needed help. My voice cracked. I hadn't meant to yell. Hadn't meant to let her see that it still hurt. I took a breath. I needed help, I said quieter. And you told me I was being dramatic. You told me to figure it out. You told me you were done trying. She was crying now. Full tears streaming down her face. If I had known. You did know. I turned the laptop back toward myself. You knew exactly what you were doing. You needed money. You needed someone to blame when things went wrong. And I was the easy target. That's not fair. The house falling apart? I interrupted. That wasn't revenge, Mom. That was protection. She looked up, confused. If that refinancing had gone through again, if the mortgage company had restructured the loan like you were planning, I would have been liable for all of it. The foundation repairs. The code violations. The entire debt. I pulled up the inspection report. This, I said, pointing at the screen, stopped everything. The county condemned the property. The lender froze the loan. And the investigation into ownership revealed the forged signature. Her face went white. Which means legally, I'm not responsible for any of it. The fraud investigation clears my name. The debt goes back to you. And I finally, get to walk away from the financial ruin you almost buried me in. You planned this, she whispered. I documented it, I corrected. I found out what you did. I reported the violations that already existed. I let the system do what it was supposed to do. We'll lose everything. You already did. I closed the laptop. The house is gone. Your credit is destroyed. And Ryan's about to find out that living at home until you're 30 doesn't prepare you for real life. She stood up, shaking. You're my daughter. Yeah, I said. I am. And you used me like an ATM and a scapegoat for 30 years. So forgive me if I don't feel guilty about saving myself. She walked to the door. Stopped with her hand on the knob. I hope you're happy, she said. I'm not, I replied. But I'm breathing. And that's more than I could say a week ago. She left without another word. Ryan's text came 3 hours later. You planned this. 3 words. No question mark. I stared at my phone for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond. To explain. To defend myself one more time. But what would be the point? Ryan knew. He'd always known. He knew Mom treated me differently. Knew she called me the mistake when she thought I couldn't hear. Knew I worked twice as hard for half the recognition. And he benefited from it. Every time I sent money, he got to keep his. Every time I was the problem, he got to be the solution. Every time I failed to meet their standards, he looked better by comparison. So no. I wasn't going to explain myself to Ryan. I deleted the message. 2 days later, Aunt Linda called. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. Your mother is devastated. I don't know what happened between you two, but family doesn't do this to family. You should be ashamed. I saved the voicemail. Not to listen to again. Just to remember. Because here's what people like Linda don't understand, I didn't destroy the house. I walked away from it. And sometimes when you finally stop holding up a structure that was never built to stand on its own, when you remove the one person who was keeping everything from collapsing, it falls. Not because you pushed it. Because it was always going to fall. I was just the only one preventing it. For 3 decades, I'd been the foundation they built their lives on. The person who sent money when they were short. The person who absorbed blame when things went wrong. The person who made them look functional by comparison. And when I left? The cracks showed. My phone buzzed constantly for a week. Calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Voicemails from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone had an opinion about what I should do. How I should help. Why I owed them something. I blocked every single one. Changed my number. Updated my address with work but left no forwarding information for anyone else. And slowly, very slowly, the noise stopped. My apartment stayed quiet. My phone stayed silent. My life became mine again. But there was one thing that I couldn't stop thinking about. That forged signature. The investigation had cleared me legally. But the fraud division had kept digging. Because if my mom had forged my name once, what were the chances she'd done it only once? Last week, I got an email from the investigator. They'd found 3 other loans. 2 credit cards. And a line of credit, all with my information attached. All opened before I turned 25. I live in a different apartment now. Smaller. Cheaper. But it's mine. Fully mine. No debt in my name that I didn't agree to. No co-signed loans waiting to detonate. No emergency calls at 2 in the morning asking for money I don't have. Just me. My job. My books. My silence. My credit score went up 40 points in 6 months once the fraud claims cleared. I bought a used car last month, nothing fancy, but it's paid for. I'm saving for a down payment on a real place. Maybe a condo. Something with my name on the deed and nobody else's. It's a quiet life. But it's honest. My mom lives in a rental apartment 2 towns over from Ridgewood. I heard through a mutual acquaintance who doesn't know the full story. The landlord is difficult, apparently. The place is smaller than she's used to. Ryan moved in with a girlfriend. I don't know her name. Don't care to. Aunt Linda stopped posting on social media about family values and holiday gatherings. The house sold eventually. Bank auction. Some investor bought it for half what my mom owed. They'll probably flip it after fixing the foundation. Someone else's problem now. But the investigation? That didn't stop. The fraud division found 7 accounts total. Loans, credit cards, even a store financing agreement for furniture I never bought. $23,000 in debt that wasn't mine. All of it tied back to documents signed when I was between 22 and 26. All of it using variations of my signature pulled from old birthday cards and school forms. The investigator asked if I wanted to press charges. Criminal charges. Not just fraud claims. Actual prosecution. I have the paperwork sitting on my kitchen table right now. Has been for 3 weeks. Some days I think about signing it. About watching my mom stand in front of a judge and explain why she stole her daughter's identity. About Ryan having to testify. About all of it becoming public record. Other days I think about just letting it go. About walking away completely and never looking back. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about revenge. It doesn't feel the way you think it will. It doesn't fill the hole. Doesn't erase the years. Doesn't make you less lonely or less angry or less sad about the family you deserved but never got. It just gives you space to breathe. And maybe that's enough. I look at the paperwork again. The investigator said I have 60 days to decide. I've got 42 left. So let me ask you something. If it was your signature, your credit, your life they'd stolen, would you sign? Or would you walk away and let the past stay buried?